What is up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for clicking on today's video. I'm really excited about talking to Danny today. Danny and I have been friends for many years, and we actually filmed a podcast a few months ago that I put on my podcast channel that will go into a lot more in depth of kind of the beginning of this podcast, because we kind of brush over it a little bit because I wanted to really talk about the GLP-1, the fact that he's on it, and hear his story. But Danny lost a lot of weight back in like 2015, 2016, 2017. He competed, but he ended up gaining basically, he gained all the weight back plus some more. And that was a really hard thing for him to deal with, and it was really tough for him. And it actually ended up kind of testing our friendship as well. It was a really hard thing to deal with, but luckily me and Danny are, I would say, closer than ever now, and we were able to have a pretty candid conversation here about him using GLP-1, how that's affected him, and the reason that he's taking it. I do ask, if you watch this video, to try and be kind. If you disagree with Danny or me, be kind to anyone that is featured in this video. If anyone decides that they want to come on the channel and speak with me, I hope that y'all will be kind, and at least if you disagree in a polite way. But without further ado, let's get into the interview. Okay, Danny, what is up? It's good to see you, my friend. Me and Danny actually hung out very recently, and that hat that Danny's wearing, I gave to him. I'm just putting it out there. And so I'm pretty sure I probably said this in the intro, but I think one thing that will be good. I got a blueberry in my teeth. Come on, get it together. Okay, I got it. One thing that I think will be good, because like I mentioned that that interview we did on the podcast, right? We didn't really kind of introduce who you are. So I think if maybe introducing who you are, how you got to where you are now, and then we'll go from there. But I think rehashing a little bit of the stuff that we talked about on that podcast, because obviously not everyone watched it, will be good.
Yeah. All right. So to start off, hi, I'm Danny Mabley, formerly known as DannyGetsFit, but haven't been that for many, many years. But basically,
always Danny Gets Fit in our heart, dude.
In 2014, I started a weight loss journey after I started a new job. I was working with someone who's going to the gym, so I just kind of went with them, and I managed to lose 140 pounds within 2 years after that. So that was like 2016, and then 2016 through 2018, I kind of fluctuated between like 180 pounds and like 250 pounds, like up and down, up and down. But during that time, I was on ADHD medication. I was prescribed Adderall for ADHD. So that assisted in like dumbing down my appetite a lot, and it just helped with the focus. But I didn't like how I felt. So I came off of that in around 2018. I just was very irritable. I didn't feel like myself. And so I came off of the medication, and then probably had like the worst 3 years of my life. It was just really tough between like COVID and, finances and relationship and just a conglomerate of like bad times. Mm-hmm. I slowly just kind of ate my emotions away. But through that, through those hard times, it really allowed me to reflect and kind of go back onto like working on myself. And so I started going to therapy. I went for therapy for about a year and a half or so. And I continued to do like self work, even today. And that kind of helped me a lot get in a better mindset. But during that time, I also was really just still struggling to lose weight. Like my appetite was out of control. Like I can't express like what it would feel like, but like it just never felt like it felt like I had to eat like 3,000 calories just to feel like satiated, which I know sounds ridiculous, but like I would legit eat like at one point I would go to In-N-Out, but the In-N-Out fries sucked. So I would get In-N-Out, and then I would get like a McDonald's large fry on the way home, just to combine the two good things. So that's where I was at, right? And so I really tried to start losing again.
That's incredible.
But it was really hard, and I was definitely like, I started to eat more fast food out of nowhere. During the first time I lost weight, I maybe ate like fast food like once a week type of thing, especially at the start. As I continued on, I ate more and more. But then it was like every single day for like almost like a year and a half, 2 years. So like it was every day.
Question. I'm trying not to interrupt too much, but like as someone that had lost a lot of weight, right? And at this point, again, a lot of what we just went over, there's a lot there. We had a whole hour-long conversation, right? So it'll be linked, right? So there's a lot that we're skipping over, but it's for a reason because we want to get to other stuff. But so like you had lost all this weight, right? You had been a coach for a while. And so do you think that like part of the stuff that you learned over that time, do you think like it helped you kind of almost make like excuses or be able to be like, well, I'll eat this, but like I know that I can do X, Y, Z and then that'll burn it off or that'll, you know what I mean?
Yeah, for a long time, I was stuck in my own like mind, and I was really struggling to like out coach myself, if that makes sense. Like in my head, I knew what I was supposed to do, but then I would like take shortcuts and then like expect a different result, which really is just insanity. But like it really like it's where my headspace was at. Like, and that also like gaining the weight back. Also, of course, at the time that I was coaching, made it so that like coaching started to dwindle down. And that was my main source of income at the time, right? So I was full-time social media. I'm no longer full-time social media. I haven't been for close to 2 years now. I'm in marketing now. Pretty much do the same thing, but just for other people. But you know, taking the step back and it not being like my job really helped because it just allowed me to be like a normal person again. Allowed me to just focus on me, allowed me to just, you know, try to get in a better headspace, but still like I really did fall into like a pretty big like I know food addiction is kind of like an iffy subject, whether it is or isn't an actual addiction, but to me it felt like it, at least at the time. It just felt like I was like I would try my best to like, you know, and at the same time it also is excuses, like I'm aware of that, but it felt like I was trying everything I possibly could, but my hunger, like I would fill up a DoorDash cart like 10 times before I actually ordered. You know what I mean? Like I would put it in. Okay, no, I don't need that. I don't need that. And I would tell myself I don't need it. I don't need it until eventually like I gave in and then would eat it and then be like, dude, what the frick? And so for like 2 years, I couldn't go more than 3 days without eating like fast food. Like I would eat better for like 3 days. And then fourth day would pretty much fall back into the cycle. And so I would lose like 5 pounds, but then I would gain like 20 or 30. And so I just kept doing that until I got to like 380 pounds. And I was like, look, I'm really like, I felt like I really was truly trying and it felt like a battle like I couldn't win. And I know like, and there's a lot of people out there that this won't be the case for, but I just, for me, it felt like I truly was like trying my best. Now, could I have maybe done it if I kept going? There's a possibility for sure. But I was like, I'm 380 pounds. I have a daughter. I want to live on this earth for as long as I can. Like, what do I got to do? Right.
And I remember like seeing, cause like, again, me and Danny have been friends this entire time, basically, right? From the start of him losing weight. And we would hang out and our conversation, it was obviously, we would always kind of talk about weight loss and like what Danny was trying to do. And like, there was always the want, right? And so it was frustrating for me, and I can only imagine for you. I'm kind of curious how that was like it was frustrating for me because I would have people message me, be like, bro, you need to like help Danny. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, like how, what do you, like, how, what am I going to do? Right. Like, I know that Danny is trying, but I mean, what was it like for you being someone on social media? Because honestly, like what you dealt with, from what I saw, right, has been a big reason why I am always cautionary of people like wanting to share their journey and like lose weight online, because I'm like, people will be very supportive, but if you stop doing what they think you should do, it can turn pretty nasty. So like, what was that like for you to go from having all these people to support you? Like, how were people like when you did start to like struggle with your weight?
Yeah. I mean, looking back, the biggest thing was like, I mean, in all reality, it was just people trying to like look out for me. Like I know a lot of people didn't have like bad intent. Of course, with social media, you're going to have people who are just like there for the downfall, you know? But it was mainly like, I felt like, now looking back, it just felt like the pressure that was put on me to like keep losing was at a weight that, looking back now, I'm like, dude, I was fine. Like, yeah, like now, like, you know, 275 pounds plus, definitely like, hey dude, like get it under control. Like, what are you doing? Totally makes sense. But I was getting like, even when I competed, which I competed at one point, you can go, it's on my channel still. But it's like, I was 160 pounds. And I remember like, just after that, like obviously you put weight back on, even being like 180, 190, when me and you and Possible Pat did that Arizona workout. I remember in Arizona, people were like, dude, you're looking like fat again. Just because like the drastic difference, right? But at the same time, at that point, I was so in a healthy and fit space. Like 180 pounds for me is like very good. Like now looking back, like I feel really good at 225. You know, I feel like I can do anything I want fitness wise. I feel healthy. My skin looks good. Like 225 for me it may seem like a heavier weight for some people, but, and I mean, I think that's, you walk around most of the time at like what?
Yeah, like well, I was like 225, but I've been trying to lean back a little bit. So I'm 218.
Yeah, and you're bigger than me, but like, you know what I mean? Like people just expect like you to walk around like shredded. Nice. And that's just not the case, especially in the weight loss side of things. Like, and I made that kind of error of like, kind of as I went through my journey, I went from like this weight loss person to like, oh, I want to be like a fitness influencer now, right? And my ego when I was younger was a little out of control, and I've talked about it before. But you know, I've done a lot of work, and for me now, it's just about being healthy. Like I'm putting more healthy foods in my body. I'm eating better, and I even now I'm getting a lot of comments on like, dude, it seems like you're eating like unsustainably. Like, how are you going to keep this up if you're not eating like certain carbs or whatever? And it's like, because like I just want to feel good. So like I'm like I went just like, as an example, I went full week with just eating basically like completely whole foods. Most of it was like veggie, fruit, and meat. And on day 7, I had McDonald's. So I was like, it just like craving came up, and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna have one and then get right back to it. And I actually have all this week for 3 days now been way back on. So that's been a huge, like, haven't done that in a long time where I've like fell off and then just like got right back on. But I felt like ball sack the next day. Like I felt like absolute trash. Like I woke up the next day with a headache, felt like way more tired than the last week I'd been. And I was like, whoa, like when you're eating good foods, it's so much easier to tell when you put like something that doesn't agree with you in your body, like how that affects you. So I was like, oh, this is night and day difference. Like I don't like this, so I'm just gonna really focus on continuing to fuel myself with good sources of food.
And so, okay, so now let's kind of shift to where we are now, right? So you obviously, well, not obviously, but we're going to be talking about that. You're taking a GLP-1, right? And what was that decision like for you? Because again, right, you had, and this is kind of a 2-part question, but I'm curious because obviously before you had lost the weight, quote unquote, naturally. I guess you could say that you were taking those drugs for ADHD, right? And like you kind of mentioned that, but like as far as like a weight loss medication, you weren't using that or anything like that, right? And so was that a hard decision for you to make? And what went into the decision to finally take the GLP-1? And then, you know, kind of just share how that's been for you, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, the last time we talked, I was thinking about it, right? When we did the last podcast. And basically I after we had done that podcast, I said to myself, like, I'm going to give myself like another like 2 months or so of like really trying. And if I don't solve it by then I'm going to see what my options are. And I really felt like I was like giving it my all. I was going to the gym, like, and I just would cave in to the cravings. And like, I get like, you know, there's people going to say like, you know, oh, you just need more self-control. Like I felt like I was I was literally writing down my goals every day. I was like in a journal. I was like going for walks when I felt hungry, but I would legit give in like every time. And apparently it's like a thing with like ADHD, like a dopamine kind of like hunt. Like your brain's always wanting that. And so I just feel like I just couldn't fight it. And my hunger level also wasn't supporting that. Like the amount of food I could eat, dude, it's not like, I just don't feel like it's normal. Like you know what I mean? Like it was just frustrating. And, so I was seeing, you know, other people obviously have success. I felt like I gave myself enough time, to give it a shot. And so I was like, all right, let's see what my options are. I tried to go through my doctor, tried to get like qualified or whatever that is through Blue Shield, through my insurance. They would not like allow me to do it for whatever reason. Like I went back and forth like 3 different times. And so I just ended up going through a telehealth and being like, hey, I went through my doctor. I'm like, she has approved me that like, hey, this is something that could be used for you, but I just can't get my insurance to approve it. And that's the kind of the case for a lot of people, unfortunately. And they're adding more harsher laws like all the time. So yeah, I just ended up going through a telehealth. So I'm on compounded tirzepatide, which is also like the generic version of Mounjaro. So it's not Ozempic. Ozempic is a semaglutide. But yeah, I just did a lot of research. I was aware of the side effects. I knew what the possibility of things happening. I've really never done a lot of medication or drugs in my life at all. Like I take an ibuprofen and that's about it. Like even when I'm sick. So it felt like a big decision, so I really thought about it. I was definitely anxious. Like I was like, what if I just, TMI, I hate throwing up. Like it's one of the worst things ever for me. Like I get like almost panic attacks. Yeah. So I was like, if I get nauseous, I'm like, there's no way I'm gonna be able to stay on this. And luckily, like I've had very, very minimal side effects. Basically all that, just to be fully transparent, all of that I've dealt with is like a little bit of acid reflux and constipation, which now that I'm eating better, because I was still eating like a little bit of fast food at the start, and like eating out with when my brother came and visited and stuff like that. But now I'm like fueling my body with like really good foods, and all those basically like symptoms have mostly gone away. Like I'm no longer experiencing like constipation and stuff. Just the odd day after injection will have a little bit of like heartburn feeling, but other than that, dude, it's been night and day difference. And I'm about 32 pounds down, just over 3 months. So like that's the first time I've lost more than 5-10 pounds in like 2 years.
Yeah.
And been able to stick with a diet for more than 3 days, and been able to get back on track when I slip. Like everything that I've been trying to do has just been made like doable.
Yeah. No, I've seen the difference, right? Like we hung out in January and we filmed some stuff, right? And I remember we went on a very short walk to do content, and like you were like, I got to sit down, right? And then we hung out just last month, and we walked all around Boston. Literally, we took 14,000 steps that day, and for the most part, like you weren't, you know what I mean? Like you were able to keep up. It wasn't really too much of an issue, and so I've already seen the changes, and so like I think when it comes to the GLP-1s, I've obviously, and this is something I definitely want to talk to you about, but I've talked about the negative side effects, right? Like I've mentioned that, and I feel like if you're at all mention the possibility of the negatives of it, people seem to assume that you are automatically against it. That's not how I feel. I just feel like with anything, this is a very serious thing that should be taken seriously. And the issue that I have, and I still feel this way, is that I feel like it has become such a trend, and I'm curious what you think about this as someone that's using it, right? It's become such a trend, and so many people, in my opinion, are using it and abusing it, again, in my opinion, and using it in a way that it wasn't intended. And so how does that make you feel as someone that, from what I see, someone that is using it, that genuinely is, I don't want to say needs it, right? But like is seeing massive, huge changes that are life-changing for you, right? And so it's something that is truly life-changing for you. How does it feel, just the overall conversation that it's in everywhere? Everyone knows what a GLP-1 is, or Ozempic. That's what I always use that term, because that's the one everyone knows, right? But obviously there's different medications like what you're on, right? But like as far as Ozempic, GLP-1 medications, everyone knows what that is now, and so many people have these strong opinions. How does that make you feel as someone that's using it, that truly feels that, it's changing your life?
Yeah, I mean, I so far I've dealt with honestly way less negativity than I thought I would, which has been great. I'm definitely in a place now that it's not my like job to be on social media. Like I take everything with a little bit less of I really am not. I respond to basically the first like 10, 15 comments when I post, and then I kind of just check out, because I just know for me, like I just want to focus on the people that I am impacting in a positive way, and just kind of ignore the noise. With this medication, like it really is gray. Like it's a very, very gray area right now. So I feel like you could make an argument on both sides for almost everything. But the reality is that like there definitely is, it's so popular that there is people that I do think have not, and like you've said this, like I'm not the gatekeeper for what decisions you should make medically for your body. But at the same time, like when you posted that video just the other day, like technically I fall into that influencer.
Yeah, I wanted to talk
GLP-1.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about
GLP-1
that, right?
influencer.
Yeah.
But I honestly had no idea that, because I don't follow anyone that's like leaner, that's just like, this is the best thing ever. Just here, use my code, buy it. All the people that I know are like, hey, like this is a serious, like you see me talk about it. Like, hey, this is a serious decision. It's not a supplement. It's a medication. It has real side effects. Like you really need to decide if this is something for you. But because it's so hard to get at this time, and because I know how life-changing it can be, and I've seen for other people, if you really feel like it's something for you, I do have a way that you can get it. And it is crazy. Like when I was watching videos, like, damn, yeah, like there was a feeling of like, okay. I don't think that I took a step to say, I don't think I should as publicly promote this, but for the people who maybe message me like, hey dude, this is something I really feel is what I need. And I always go back and forth with people. I'm like, okay, are you aware of the side effects? Have you talked with the doctor? Like, is this really a decision like you want to make? Like, here's the potential stuff that can happen. And if they're like, yeah, whatever, then it's like, okay, well, yeah, if you're going to get it here, save some money, because it's really hard to get right now. And that was my only like conversation to the video you made, is just like, unfortunately there's going to be a bad side of it. But there also is a lot of people struggling that can use the medication that have either no way of getting it, or it's impossibly expensive. When it comes down to the compounding stuff, like so when the FDA puts compound pharmacies like into place, like allows them to make it, it's because there's a shortage, right? So the real stuff, the Ozempic, the Mounjaro, is in shortage. So the FDA goes, hey, there's a shortage. Compound pharmacies make the stuff. And now there's pharmacies that are FDA approved, and there's pharmacies that aren't. So for me, when I partnered with the brand that I'm with, I spoke with the owners directly, and I was like, hey, where are you guys getting your stuff from? What's the quality of it? I ran it and had a conversation in the DMs with Spencer Nadolski. And I was like, am I doing this as right as I possibly can? And he was like, I mean, yes, no, but like, it seems like things are good. So you have to just make that choice for yourself. And for me, like I said, like, I just see so many people like struggling and like messaging me, hey, I've been on, and it's not just people brand new either. A lot of the messages I get are, hey, I've been on this for 4 months and my doctor can no longer give it to me. Where are you getting yours from? And because I can't pay $1,200, and how much is it? And I'm like, I'm getting it from this, and it's $300-$400 a month, and it's from an FDA approved facility. So like I said, it's a gray area, but that's where I'm at. As long as, to me, it's like, if someone's on it, or if they're thinking about it and I feel like they're making the best choice for them, it's like, hey, this is up to you, but like, keep me updated, because I want to know, like, one, the brand that I'm working with, are they working well with you? Do you feel like you're getting a good service? Are you having any issues with the medication? Like, keep me updated, because like I'm, there's a sense of like, I'm kind of involved in this now. Yeah. So, and people might not agree with that, and I'm totally fine with that. I do make a small commission of like $40 per person who buys it. It's not my full-time position. I'm not incentivized to like make a shit ton more money. Like I'm good. It's just like, hey, the people who need it, here you go. Here's an access to it. Here's a little money saved. And yeah.
See, like I just struggle, because I think that with anything like this, there are obviously going to be people that are going to take advantage of it, right? And so the thing that really bothers me and makes me uncomfortable is that I know that there are people like if you go to your page, right? And I've obviously been to your page. It's not like that's not your whole thing, right? Your whole thing isn't like, I'm going to promote these medications, but there are people that is their whole entire thing.
Yeah.
But
I didn't even know that prior to your video.
Yeah. I mean, it's something I'm learning about too, right? Like this is pretty new to me as well, right? But like, I just struggle, because where do we draw the line, right? Like, because is it fair to be like, because people are abusing it, in my opinion, are abusing it, and their whole page is about this, and they are making commissions off of this, and some of them probably making literally thousands of dollars a month, if not more, by basically selling people drugs, right? Does that mean that, like, where do we draw the line? Whereas, like, you can only make this many posts, but you know what I mean? Like, I just don't know. And then on top of that, the other thing that, like, really kind of freaks me out is that, and I'm not sure how much you know about this, but like that there are places that you can like go to a med spa where you'd get like a facial and like maybe Botox, and then you can also get an Ozempic. Like that.
Wow, dude.
Like, how does that make you feel, right? Like,
it's disgusting. I mean, there are people in this space just in it for a money grab. And as, I don't know, as a person, like I definitely feel like I look on the more positive side more often than, like, not to say that you don't, but I feel like we're a little bit different in that sense.
Yeah.
Right. So to me, I'm like, could they? Sure. But does the majority of their talk and their decisions seem to be in a positive sense? Then it's like, I'm just making my best gut feeling, right? Like at the end of the day, we don't know the motivation and intent that everyone has. There's ones that obviously, like the ones that you were showing, I was like, dude, what the fuck? What is going on? You know, like there's obvious ones. But for those, like I said, like for me, the thing that I was watching your video, like, and I was like, ooh, I think this is something missed just from someone not in this space, is like I said, like 80% of the messages I get are like, I've been on it and I'm terrified because I can't get it anymore. Like, how are you getting it?
Yeah.
And so they're just basically replacing what they are currently getting through their doctor with a telehealth that, from what I know, is using an FDA approved facility. And they've sent me some certifications as well. But I can't share that, but
yeah. So like,
but
how does it, like, the thought, because this video will probably be up before the video that I'm about to talk about will probably be up before this interview, but like there are some people that I have seen that are unbelievably thin that are promoting it still, right? And so like that's its own thing, but then I'm curious about you, like, have you thought about, because obviously this is something that has been talked about, it's a chronic thing that you take. So most people say is the plan is that you stay on it, right? And so is that something you've given much thought onto as far as, do you want to stay on this? Will you, like, when will you have you thought about, like, when, if you do decide to get off of it, when would be a good time? And like, how have you thought about an exit strategy, or at least like a lowering the dose eventually as you get to a more maintainable weight? Like, have you thought about that much?
Yeah, definitely. So for a lot of people, there is the case, like, there's a possibility you have to be on like a maintenance dose for life. So that was something that I accepted going into it. It's the first thing I communicate to people if they ask me about it. It's like you just said about the thin people, like the first thing I ask is like, how much weight do you have to lose? And if it's under 50 pounds, I'm like, I really don't think this is something you should do. But like I said, it's your choice. But like, to me, like I wouldn't do this, if this was up to me. But that's number one. It's like, I do think it should be for people who are chronically struggling with like their weight, and someone who's like a little bit overweight. And even then, like there's, some people could be struggling with a little bit overweight for a long period of time. So I don't fully know. Right. But I think for the majority of decisions you could make, it should be for people who are really struggling, as is a big decision. For me, going into it, I was like, okay, if I have to take it, so be it, right? But I have so much knowledge from doing this previous that like I'm confident that I am going to be able to keep it off. Like that's what my want is. That's what I'm like putting in my mind like all the time. Like, hey, this is temporary. Let's let's get this under control. Let's make good decisions. And that's why I'm focusing so much on that, just like how I feel and what I feel my body with. Because if I can keep that for life as well as the activity, and like you said, like activity was very tough when I was like at my highest, but now that I'm lowering, like I went and played pickleball for an hour and a half today, something I couldn't do. I couldn't do 4 months ago. Yeah. Like my body would not allow it. Right. So now I can start to put activity in my daily routine, which is then more going to help me be able to keep off the weight. So my goal is to come off it eventually, slowly, and hope that, I can keep it off. But if I have to do like a maintenance dose of 2.5 milligrams, then so be it. When I first started, I tapered up my dose as slow as possible. I basically only went up when I was feeling like hunger really come back. So yeah, just time. And I'll probably come off of it, or at least try to, when I reach like my goal weight, which is right now like that 225 mark, and then see maybe if I can go from like 225 to 200 without it. But we'll see. Just time will tell. but I want to try to come off it. And then, but if I have to have a maintenance dose for life, then it's just something I got to do.
Yeah.
You know?
So when it comes to like coming off of it, right? Like what are the worries? Because and like as far as what do you feel it's helped you with, right? Because before you were struggling, you were getting McDonald's and In-N-Out, to make the perfect lunch. But like you know that was something that you were dealing with, and obviously now you're able to focus a little bit more on whole foods. Like what do you feel the medication has done the most for you that has made that 30 pounds possible, like lost?
Yeah. So to me, what it feels like is I just have the appetite and the thought around food like anyone would, like anyone who doesn't really like, it's just like, I don't get it. Why don't you just stop when you're full and like not eat that? Like it's hard to explain, but it just doesn't feel like that's easy. Right. Mm. On the medication, it feels like that's doable. Mm. Like I don't feel like I'm thinking about food as much. I feel like when I eat, I get fuller faster. And I'm just, like even like driving by McDonald's, like there's still that like habit of like, ooh, I could just grab a quick snack, and just the ability to say no more of like driving by, like, nope, don't eat it. That just like felt easier to do, to just be like, oh, I don't need that, And the interesting thing is, if you look at some of the research of these medications, even people who struggle with like alcoholism are like seeing improvement. Mm-hmm. So it seems like there's some sort of like habit helper like within it. Obviously more research needs to be done, but it's very interesting. It just feels like I can make the choices that I need to. I can get full faster, so I'm eating less. Like especially when I first got on it, I would like buy a meal that I normally would eat and would be like, oh no, I can't eat this much.
Yeah.
And so I just started focusing heavily on like eating the protein first and the veggies. And so eventually I was like, why don't I just like really focus on just eating like the best things possible. Mm-hmm. And so I just kind of went over it on the video I put on my channel. But the reason I'm kind of starting, I'm not a big fan of Paul Saladino, but he is the creator of like the animal-based diet. Mm-hmm. So I'm following something very similar to that. And the reason I'm doing that is just because like I wanted to kind of start at like ground zero. Like, so it's like meat, fruit, honey, like really basic stuff. And I'm slowly adding in things to see how my body reacts. So like I can eat broccoli, carrots, and cauliflower fine. Doesn't bother me at all. Whereas onions and like peppers and stuff like make my stomach like hurt and like I don't feel really well. Mm-hmm. So I'm like adding things back in slowly, starting really from the ground. And then eventually like if whatever I can eat that I feel good doing, I'll eventually add back in. But for now, I just feel great with doing what I'm doing. My energy has been up. Just feeling good. So I'm focusing on that feeling good and just continuing to make that my first, like weight loss second almost to how I feel. Mm-hmm. Like the weight loss will come if I feel my best.
Yeah.
That's how I'm kind of viewing it now.
Yeah. And then
which wasn't before, know that. Like it was like if it fits your macros style, which, hey, if that works for you, great. And it did work for me at one point, but I just don't feel like that's going to be something I can do forever. Yeah. With like, because as soon as I have like a little bit of something, man, like I just want it all. And this, like you still.
Yeah. And that. I think that moderation is the end goal that people should have in my opinion, but I also understand that is a end goal. Right. And so like, I think it might take a little bit of time to get there. And I think like the issue that maybe you had that I would see is that like you were very good at like saying, oh, this is moderation, when in reality it really wasn't, right? It was like overindulgence. And I think that it's something that's kind of difficult. And like, I think it's incredibly important to be kind to yourself and understand that the position that you're in right now, and this is me speaking to myself when I was losing weight and other people, like other clients that I've had that I'm helping lose weight, is like, you might not feel like it's possible to be to have that moderation right now. And maybe right at this moment, it's not. But I always say, I think the end goal should be that, because do you really never want to be able to have whatever thing it is that you enjoy, right? Whether it's a quesadilla or like whatever, right? Like, do you always want to only eat like meat and vegetables like forever and ever, right? And for some people, like, they genuinely don't really care. Like, this is when I remember when keto was really big, and I would have these conversations with people, and some people have been able to stay on that and it hasn't been a problem. But the vast majority of people that lose a bunch of weight on keto end up gaining it back because they can't continue that thing, right? And then they feel like they are a failure because they couldn't keep that diet. And I always say, like, you didn't fail the diet failed you at that point, right? Like, it wasn't going to work, and you shouldn't beat yourself up about doing something that at the end of the day, there was no way that you were going to be successful, especially if it's not a way that you enjoy eating. But again, it's like, you have to understand that, like, when you first start losing weight, when you first start a diet, like, it's not going to be super fun. And then you might have to, like, not let yourself have XYZ thing, because, if you let yourself have a little bit of it, you're going to have a ton of it. Right. And so it's just, it's all about finding that, like, that balance. And, like, so do you think that with the, like, this medication, do you think it's going to help you get there? Like, as far as, like, end goal, what do you envision the end goal that you hope to achieve with this?
I mean, I hope to really just, like, be able to continue to really switch to a diet approach for the 90% of the time. So 6 days of the week, eating in a way that makes me feel the best. And right now, I feel like the medication is making that possible. I was just having the conversation with someone, an old client of mine that I'm still friends with. And he was saying, like, I just ate, like, this crappy thing on Sunday, and I know that every time I eat it, I wake up the next day, like, my stomach's all upset. Like, I'm like, I can't run as well as I usually do, but I still do it anyways. Like, knowing that that's going to happen. So, like, right now I'm in a place where my self-control, I'm able to be like, oh, I don't feel like good on this, I'm going to cut it out. Whereas that might be something for people that are like, yeah, I know I'm going to feel shitty and I still do it anyways.
Yeah.
So my goal is to get to a place where I can really make that, like, my decision maker and be like, have enough self-control to be like, if this is not going to positively affect my goals and my next day or, like, today, like, let's stay on track. And then if by the weekend I'm still wanting that thing, towards the end of the day, and I do this now too, whenever I am going to have something bad, quote unquote, something processed or fast food, like, I'll have it at the end of the day so that, like, I can't have any more. You know what I mean? And I mean end, like, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. Like, just because, like, I'm going to have it and I'm going to go to bed. Because if I had that, like, first thing, that whole day is messed. You know what I mean?
It's too easy to tell yourself, like, oh, what's the point? I might as well have this. You know what I mean?
And I know my brain does that. Like, I know I rationalize everything. So I'm like, instead of just, like, knowing that that's going to happen, and part of you is going to be like, ooh, I know that I can rationalize this if I have it early in the day. But, like, I know that I have that. So even, like, self-control doesn't have to be perfect, but self-control can just be like putting yourself in the best situation possible to make the best choices possible. So if that means eating something bad towards the end of the day so that you're not eating as much during the full day, like, that in turn is a form of self-control. So do what you got to do to just set yourself up and put yourself in the best situation possible to make the best choices and feel as good as you can.
Yeah. No, and I appreciate you coming on here and talking about this, because, like, for me, I don't want to say I struggle, but I know, and I guess I have struggled with, because I have talked about the negative side effects and been like, hey, like, this is something we need to be careful of. I think people have put me in this box of, like, I am very much against any GLP-1 medication. And so if I have someone share their story or I talk about it and there's any sort of positive aspect to it, people almost, like, get mad at me and that I'm not being harsh enough and I'm not going at it enough. But, like, at the end of the day, I just want people to do what is best for them. And I, especially, like, as far as the videos I've been making recently, I think as a society, I think we need to be careful about how much we are pushing it and how much of a miracle drug we are saying it is. I do think, beyond the shadow of a doubt, there is a use case for it, and it can be incredibly helpful and genuinely life-changing for some people. But just because that's the truth, does that mean it's for everyone, right? And that's where I find the danger. So just to kind of end off, is there anything else that you want to make sure you put out there, right, to anyone that might be considering it or has negative or even positive feelings about it? Just, like, as someone that is taking it, like, and just someone that is in the, kind of the whole world that we're dealing with right now, like, what are your, like, ending thoughts and just kind of what do you think about it?
Yeah, just before that, though, just to expand on kind of what you just said, you see that as, like, the main argument by people who don't get it, right? It's like, you don't need to, like, hey, it looks like you're doing, like, this is the most thing I've seen since I've been on it, and it's very funny to me. It's like, hey, it looks like you're doing well now. Why do you need the medication then? It's like, cause dude, the
Yeah.
only reason I'm doing well is because of the medication. Like someone was like, hey, if you're eating like this, like I don't think you need this. And it's like, dude, the only reason I'm eating like that is because I'm on it. Like
Yeah.
like I said, it's very difficult to explain the mindset of someone who struggled their whole life to someone who like just doesn't.
So
Like, what do you mean? Like,
okay, so that's what I understand where you're coming from, right? But like to play like I guess like devil's advocate, or not even devil's advocate, but like why I'm trying to understand how I'm going to phrase this. Like why do you think it is possible for you to eat that way, right? Like do you think that part of it could be this self-fulfilling prophecy of like the only way that I could be successful is if I'm on this, and so because I'm on this now it's easier for me to, you know what I mean? Like how much of it do you think is like in your head you saying I can do this because I'm on this? You get what I'm trying to say?
yeah, but I mean it's how the medication works.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's the main thing the medication allows you to do is to make better choices and to eat less. So I would say like, yeah, probably 85, 90% is from the medication and 10% is just like, oh, I feel good. So I'm just going to make better choices. Like for sure. Like, but it sets for me. And like I said, I'm going to get into like who this is for, in my opinion. But for me, it's been night and day difference of just being able to make good choices.
Yeah.
Like it's not even close to the same. Like, dude, like driving by, like I said, it may seem dumb, but driving by a McDonald's without even just grabbing like a small cheeseburger or like a small fry. Cause I used to just be like, oh, if I have a little bit, then maybe I can fit it in. Like that felt like something that was like not like that. I almost like I would be going out of the drive-thru and been like, fuck, what did I just do?
Yeah.
Like almost in like blackout, not blackout, like I knew I was doing, but like in the middle of ordering, they'd be like, oh, we're actually out of this. And I'd be like, oh, okay, well, I'll get way more instead for some fucking reason. It's pardon my French.
Oh, there's that ice cream maker's broken? Dang, that's crazy. I guess I'll just get
a
two
Big Mac
meals.
meal. Yeah. No, dude, like that literally is some of the times what I would do. Like,
Yeah.
or I'm like, oh, I'll go through this and get grilled chicken. Oh, they're out of grilled chicken. Oh, yeah, okay, I'll just get a large Baconator meal, please then. You know, like you're it just feels like you're fighting what is like a natural instinct. And this has been something and this is not like a new thing for me. Like when I was a teenager, this is what it was. Like I would eat Tim Hortons and pizza like almost every day because it just felt like that's what I wanted to do. And that's what I felt good and blah, blah, blah. And I mean, we went into the podcast, like I definitely have a ton of trauma that makes that what it is. When my mom, who was on drugs, used to leave me at home for days at a time, I would just sit and eat and watch movies to like cope. And so like that's built in me. So for some people, it's not just, for a lot of people, I would say it's an internalized something going on, people who struggle. But to get back to the end here, when it comes to GLP-1, I think, in my opinion, GLP-1 or bariatric surgery, and this is another thing that comes up, I personally think GLP-1 should be the first try versus surgery, but like other people have a different opinion on that. A lot of people ask like, why don't you just do surgery? And I'm like, because it seems like this is way less of a big, huge change. But whether you're getting surgery or GLP-1, I think that it comes down to like, it really should be what you deem as your final option. Like it should feel to you like I am exhausted by trying everything and I need to get my health in order. Like I'm at a place where like, this is not going to, like, if you're at a weight that you could live to 70 plus on, you might not like need to lose as much as you think you do. Right. But if you know, and you feel like a person who's like, my health is in the decline, I'm not doing well, you know, my doctor's saying all these things, and that can even be up and down. But if you feel like you're at that place and you feel like you've truly tried everything, then I would talk to your doctor about like, hey, is this something that's right for me? And see if it is. And then, you know, there are people who are going to have it and have no issue. There are people who are going to have it and have minor side effects. And there's a possibility of taking it that there could be a side effect that really affects you for life. There's a few gastro and pancreatic things. The thyroid needs more research, but they have to put it on the packaging right now, as far as what I know. as far as thyroid cancer, but it's usually in case for people who've had previous markers or family history. But you need to say to yourself, like, am I okay with potentially like, getting sick either way?
Yeah.
And that's the way I decided was like, well, either way, if I continue to go what I'm going, I'm not going to be around for very long. And if this medicine takes me out, then hey, so be it. Like that's the mindset I had. Like,
yeah.
it was just like, hey, if it is what it is, all right. Like, I'm just not meant to be around for very long.
Yeah.
But I really can say that like like I have self-control in almost every other aspect of my life. Like I have a successful business. I enjoy doing a lot of things and like completing tasks and like, but weight has always been my biggest struggle. So for me, like the self-control thing can't be the answer for everyone. And now I'm in a place where I can put that control in action with a little bit of assistance. And you do still have to, like, there was 2 weeks I didn't lose because I was still eating like poorly when my brother came and visited. So the whole thing about, oh, if you take it, you just lose weight. Not necessarily. Like, you still have to put in effort. You still have to make good habits and make real changes. You're not going to lose 100 pounds on a GLP-1 doing nothing, like just eating whatever. So you got to still work. So yeah, if that's you, then hey, see what's right for you. Make that decision for yourself. It's your body, your choice. But yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, I think that's kind of it. Where, if people want to follow you, where can they do that? I know that you've been posting on YouTube again, so welcome back. But yeah,
I'm filming a full day of eating today, so that'll be fun. I'm tracking my journey again. The difference is that this isn't my main source of income, so I'm not like putting YouTube like every week. I'm doing every 2 weeks for now, but I'm gonna do it when I can. But my Instagram, I'll post to almost every day. So that's Danny Mabley, DannyMabley. Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and I'm just tracking the journey, putting the journey on, just like I did when I first started ever. I'm just sharing with people what I do, and I'm not telling people anyone what to do. I'm just like, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is what it looks like. This is the progress I'm making. If it resonates with you and it impacts you, like that's what I do it for. Like the people who message me like, hey, like even yesterday when I posted, like I gained all my weight back and I'm doing it again. Like it's insane the amount of people who have the exact same story. Like 50 plus just on that post alone of like, hey, I've lost and then gained a ton back. And this just makes me feel not alone. Right. And so that's what I'm doing it for, is just to share. And obviously, it feels good to have some positive comments while I'm along the journey, but it's just like, just connecting with the community, man. Like that's just been the biggest thing for me. It's why I've enjoyed coming back, and I try and be funny now and then. So I'll put some random BS on there too.
But I'm happy to have you back. It's been good. I'm proud of you. I'm happy that you're tracking the journey again and that you are making positive changes. So
Thanks,
all good
man.
with me. Yep.